Video games have evolved over the years, going from side-scrolling button mashers to complex adventures with engaging characters and deep-plotted storylines. I'd like to say the same thing about video game movies, but if they had, we wouldn't be here today. Strap in as we take on some of the best, worst video game movie adaptations and do our best not to rage quit in this edition of Grading on a Curve. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this edition of Grading on a Curve, and It's Not That Bad podcast special. We are so stoked for this one. The gang is all here. We are ready to take on the worst of the worst in this, the video game movie adaptation episode. We are about to go through five of the worst video game movie adaptations and rank them in amongst themselves, because let's be honest, none of these are being considered the best. But before we do, it's time to introduce everyone on the panel here, starting of course with my lovely wife Carrie. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Love to say that I'm happy to be here, but I want the 10 plus hours back from these movies.
we'll put it on your tab. It's okay.
Oh boy.
Next up, from Movie Date Night, it's the guy who puts the me in Mac and me. Greg, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm already upset with you. I'm upset with Carrie. These movies were awesome. I'm going to defend them all to the end. So I'm fired up and ready to go.
Oh, Greg is here and he's ready. All right, next up from the Sleevy G Show, the host with the most, the bare-armed Baron himself, Gomez is here. Gomez, how you doing, man?
What's going on? As for Greg, he's going to defend these movies. Let me tell you, there was two garbage. They should be buried next to Jimmy Hoffa. That's how bad they were.
Sorry, not sorry. By the way, congratulations, Gomez, on 500 listens of the Sleevy G Show. That's going really, really well for you.
It is. I got to thank everyone who's helped out. And, Jason, you were on the show, too. We were doing Tony Hawk for episode 3. Can't wait to get you back on. We got to do some more, video games or a movie. Or actually, you know what? Hockey season is around the corner for you and me. And we got to have to talk a little hockey this year.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes, indeed. And joining his first ever Grading on a Curve special from the Son of the Mask and Batman Forever episode, it is Lyle, Not a Crocodile Robert Show from AM 640 Toronto. Lyle, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm very, very excited. I like the rest of the panel here. I've lost so much of my life to what we're about to discuss. Time I will never get back. But there was one pleasant surprise in here, and I am excited to get into that.
Okay, for the record, though, you all knew, maybe except for Lyle, but the rest of you knew exactly what you were signing up for. So that's on you guys. But before we go down this road,
Wait. Can I just say, when I married you, I did not sign up for this.
Okay, but podcasting wasn't a thing when we got married.
This wasn't my agreement.
That's why the traditional vows are just for better or for worse. It's open-ended. It's like you can't predict what's going to come in the future. You got to roll with it, baby.
I feel like
right about that one.
I feel like that's our movie selection. Some better, some worse.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Some are just not better at all.
And some are just meh. But before we find out which movies these are and what category they fit into, let's find out the contestants as we go through the Pentagon of Pain. Put the game controller down and pick up the remote control. It's time to meet the contestants in the video game movie Pentagon of Pain. First up, a movie that made you want to go to the nearest arcade and ask for a refund on all the quarters you pumped into that machine. It's Double Dragon. Next, from id Software comes a film that puts Dwayne Johnson's ego in God mode. It's Doom. Our third contestant, introduce the 4 scariest words you could ever hear upon entering a movie theater. Directed by Uwe Boll. It's hackneyed slashy Blood Rain. Next up, a sloppy second serving from the master of getting quality actors to slum it up comes a film that wants to charge you by the number of words in the title.
It's In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege tale. And finally, a movie that looks like all the cutscenes taken from a video game mashed together and thrown on YouTube that makes you wish that you could just hit the B button and skip. It's Warcraft. Now, let the ranking of the rank begin.
It should be noted that every single one of these movies, except for Warcraft, found themselves on a list in Time magazine in 2009 when they released their list of the top 10 worst video game movie adaptations. I'm sure if that list came out today, Warcraft would probably find its way on there. But let's get started here with the oldest film on the list, and that's Double Dragon, starring Robert Patrick, Mark Dacascos, Scott Wolf, Christine Wagner, Julie Nixon, and Alyssa Milano. Yes, Alyssa Milano with blonde hair. It is the directorial debut of Jim Yukich, who had directed music videos for Genesis prior to this, including the Invisible Touch video. The movie was released in 1994 with a budget of $7.8 million, according to IMDb. According to Wikipedia, the worldwide gross, however, $4.1 million. And when it debuted on the November 4th, 1994 weekend, it only debuted at number 12 with $1.376 million. But over on Rotten Tomatoes, the reason why this film is on this list, the audience score sits at 26%. The Rotten Tomatoes score, the tomatometer, is only at 12%. Greg, I'm going to start with you on this one. Yeah, 12. Greg, I'm going to start with you on this one here. Double Dragon, what did you think and how did you rank it?
This is the only one out of these 5 that I had never seen before. So this is my first time viewing this. I always think it's funny whenever films, because this came out in the early 90s. I think it's funny whenever films take a swing about what the future is going to look like. And this one, I just had to point out that apparently the quote big one for the earthquake that we're all expecting in Southern California happened in 2000. And this post-apocalyptic scene that they're showing is 2007, and they're like, it's not a quake, it's just an aftershock whenever any earthquake goes on. Like, that's not how earthquakes work at all. Like, if you live down here, you would know that's not how that works. But of course, I do also love it whenever they show like the weird like concept of future tech, like the line graphics they show when Adobo's driving his like tank car and he's just like trying to essentially play a video game within a movie that's a video game, trying to take out the other guys. It had very, as I described it, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 fight scenes within it. But like considering that's also technically a video game movie or comics book movie, like that fits. The one thing I can't not talk about is, so in the video game, because I did used to play Double Dragon, and as Jason alluded to, I have also dumped tons of quarters into that machine when I was younger, is they have that great big muscle-bound dude called Adobo. And like, I was like, okay, cool. So like, they're going to have him in here. But like, I don't know why, but in this version, they gave him this weird frog neck thing where like, it looked like he could croak and like have it go ribbit and like expand out. And I like almost gagged when I saw that. It just horrified me. I did not like that at all. It was terrifying to look at. It freaked me out. And it just, I think the one thing this movie had that it was trying to capitalize on was it kind of had like a, what's that one movie? It had like a Warriors vibe to it where like like the gangs have taken over, the police are powerless. So the gangs, of course, because they have all this idle time, say, what if we have themes? What if we go for like matching costumes or like some kind of a gimmick so that way my gang versus your gang? And I thought that was just the dumbest thing. So if I'm going to start this thing off, I'm going to put this at right in the middle. This is my 3 out of 5.
All right. Lyle, Double Dragon.
This was a fever dream of a movie. It really was. I have played Double Dragon as well. It's a little bit before my time. Some of the other ones were the newer games are the ones where I really spent the more time with it, but everybody knows Double Dragon. So I went into this kind of not knowing what to expect because I'd never seen it before. I was not expecting the Hardy Boys but they're Power Rangers, which is essentially what this movie is. And it very much, you kind of hit the nail right on the head. It very much does feel like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It's very comic booky, all over the place. A lot of people banging on things and waiting to fight or cornering people. Robert Patrick, I think, is probably the best part of this. The fact he turns two-dimensional, chokes people out as a shadow. It's just a complete farce the entire time. I had no idea what was going on. Super colorful. I really did like it. I love the vehicle construction as well. The props they used were really cool. And for what it was, they had to nail one thing if it's going to be a Double Dragon movie, and that's the fight scenes. Because obviously, it's a beat 'em up. You're going left to right. You're fighting hordes of enemies. Somehow you have to turn that into an hour and a half movie, and I don't think they did the worst job of it here. It's my number 3 as well.
All right, Carrie, Double Dragon.
Strangely enough, I really enjoyed the campiness of this. I knew nothing about the video game or what I was getting into when I first pressed play, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Alyssa Milano's character was cute as a button with her little blonde pixie cut. And just like, I don't know, like it's just so strange to see her in a role like that because it was so uncharacteristic of what you're used to. You know what? I placed it as a 2.
Okay.
On my ranking.
Okay. Not going to lie. Not even Alyssa Milano could save this for me.
Wow.
Right. and this is saying a lot because I'm of an age where, like me, like most other guys, we probably all had a crush on Alyssa Milano. This movie did not do anything for that crush. I am sorry.
But she was cute as a button.
She's Alyssa Milano, but it did nothing for me here. But I will say this, also to Boa Bobo, this is what happens when you overstuff the sausage. That's kind of what he looked like. The thing is, it's 1994, right? So I'm not expecting a lot as far as the graphics go, even though they did look like, PlayStation 1 graphics at best. And their whole escape from LA kind of feel, I mean, I didn't mind it. I recognize that it's at a time when they're aiming for these movies to be, taken in by kids, right? This is what it's aimed for. And in that, I think it did its job. But it's just it's almost too campy to a point. And it's like they knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to be campy. And the rule about camp is that the minute you try for camp, you fail at camp. You can't try to be campy. You either are or you aren't. And there was just too much laughing in it to really get to that point. It's a 4 for me. Gomez? Double Dragon, over to you.
Oh, God. So this killed me in 1994 when I first saw it. Thank God. The $4.1 million that was made in this movie was not my $9. You guys saying it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Oh, hell no. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a far better movie than this one. First of all, at least the actors were able to act correctly. And actually do the moves because there were stunt doubles in there and their voices were better as hidden in the masks. First of all, you have Scott Wolf. He's supposed to be player 1 for Double Dragon. What were they thinking? Get somebody better. Mark, whatever you, Capoeira Master, Karate Boy, do me a favor. He was better in Only the Strong and maybe John Wick 3. And that's the only 2 movies. He was better off in being in the show Chopped. Alyssa Milano, yes, every boy's dream just crushed with this movie because she went blonde. Horrible choice of hair. Robert Patrick was the only good reason about this movie. And actually, I would say Andy Dick being in the movie, he was the weather guy. He was probably the funny part.
Right, he was in this movie.
Yes. So how do you guys forget him? And Vanna White, too. So a couple of big names that were in there. George Hamilton, too. This movie ranks in around a 3 for me. It had some good points, had some points, excuse my language. But, to say it was better, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, no way. Not even close. This is below Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle would be higher up in my rankings than this one. So I put it at a 3 here in the middle.
that pretty much puts this film in the meh of all mess. But now we move on to October 21st, 2005, and the release of Doom. Stars Carl Urban, Rosamund Pike, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and a bunch of disposable action heroes. Directed by Andrei Bartkowiak, and again, I apologize if I mess up any names. I'm an idiot in a basement with a microphone. But he did direct Romeo Must Die and Exit Wounds prior to this film, which had a $60 million budget. Domestically, it only made $28 million. Worldwide, $58. Did debut at number 1, however, with a $15.4 million debut, but then promptly dropped to number 7 the following week. Now, at the Razzies, Dwayne Johnson was nominated for Worst Actor that year. He lost to Rob Schneider in Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo. And the film was given a dishonorable mention at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. The worst picture that year, another video game adaptation, Alone in the Dark. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of 34. And over on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is exactly that, 34%. The Tomatometer, 6% better than Double Dragon, sitting at 18%. So Gomez, we're going to go back to you for Doom.
Doom. Damn you, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You screwed the pooch in this movie. Should have just stayed wrestling, man, not acting. You did better movies now. First of all, I love the old school video game of Doom when you're playing in the computer. You know what I mean? That was fun. That was great. Love the scariness of this. This movie was my garbage pick, like next to Jimmy Hoffa in the Meadowlands.
Oh, is this a 5?
Yes, this is my number 5.
Wow.
This was so bad that even we put ourselves in the panel, we could have done a better movie, guys. Seriously. This was just horrible. The writing was not good. The production wasn't that great. And you barely broke even. So how is it better than Double Dragon? I'd rather watch Double Dragon than this crud. It was just horrible. This is my number 5. I didn't like it one bit. Sorry, Rock. I respect you for all your other movies, but this was your total garbage. This is, you know what? I'd rather watch The Tooth Fairy over this one.
Oh, wow. Now that's saying something. If you would rather watch Dwayne Johnson in The Tooth Fairy in comparison to this. Okay, so we had a film with, my one-time film crush, Alyssa Milano. So, Carrie, your one-time film crush with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
And The Rock couldn't save this. This was definitely what The Rock was cooking on a bad night after Taco Bell.
Oh.
I give Taco Bell more credit than that.
Right? Sorry, no disrespect to Taco Bell. Yeah. Okay, so side story here. The most horrific movie I recall from my childhood watching was Star Trek's The Wrath of Khan. And the reason I say that is because it's still burned in my brain, that slug type thing which crawled out of his ear, and that haunted me through my childhood. This movie is such a bloodfest, and it triggered me because it reminded me of that fear growing up. I was just like, okay, no, things coming out of bodies that should not be. And it was too long. It was a really long, gory bloodfest. And so I placed it at a 4.
Okay.
Oh, that's respectable. I still give it a garbage 5.
Lyle, what have you got?
I think I'm going to make some people mad at me because I love Doom so much.
Oh my God.
I love the game so much, especially the newer versions, the one that just came out on PS4 and now the new one, PS5, Doom Eternal. I platinumed the first one. I beat it on Nightmare difficulty, which took me like 40 hours just in itself for that one run. I love Doom. I loved this movie when I was a kid. Obviously, now when I look at it, I understand that it's terrible. And I could smell what The Rock was cooking. Everybody could smell this. Right down the hall, you could smell it. Because it's terrible, it stinks. But at the same time, I've got fond memories of it. The squad up scene, the first-person scene at the end specifically, when he's going through the halls and it looks like a game of Doom just on screen. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world when I was a kid. So it gets a sentimental too.
Okay. Greg, Doom.
When you said that Doom was on this list, I was like, Jason, you messed up. This is a good film. Why are you putting this on this list? And I still agree with that sentiment. So when I was going through all these films, it was hard for me to like rank them initially. So what I did is I kind of went back and I ranked them individually with things like source material references, acting, plot, overall enjoyment. And Doom scored pretty high for me, especially with the source material references. They're using the right guns, the right enemy types. This is based upon Doom 3, which they had set on Mars. So that's also the right location and even a lot of the same nouns like the UAC. The only thing that they did different that they didn't have in the movies was in Doom, it's of course supposed to be demons from hell. Like they accidentally open a hell portal on Mars. Here they do like this genetic like DNA slant thing, which I kind of like, like if I agree it would have been better if they did the hell things. But at the same time, I bought what they were trying to sell with the, it's like a 24th chromosome. Okay, that's fine. It also really parodied kind of the plot lines of The Thing meets Alien, where you have a monster that can kind of like change inside of you and then come out and start attacking. It's hiding in the shadows and in the corridors and these kind of industrial like complex. And then it's also the idea of the thing where we can't let it get off this rock. If it gets off this rock and onto the planet, it's game over for humanity. So it kind of felt like a nice fusion between those two. It does take like 45 minutes to fully ramp up, but then after that, it's a great ride. And I always applaud movies when they try something different or new. So I really enjoy that first person sequence. Yeah, it's maybe not the best looking nowadays, but it's like a direct homage to the actual game itself in the best, most meta way possible. And I will remind you, they actually had a full length first person movie called Hardcore Henry that came out a couple years after this. And granted, while that didn't do super well in the box office, it's something that is feasible to do as an entire full-length movie. So just want to put it out there. Also, apparently 2026 is when we discover the portal that takes us to Mars. So only 3 years until we can get off this blue and green rock, everybody. I put Doom as my 2.
All right.
Greg, can I ask you a question?
You can ask a question. I will happily answer it.
What were you smoking or drinking watching this movie is the best question, because I need some of that to watch it.
This is all natural, man. I don't do any drugs. This is just me.
Okay, I had to ask because
no, that's fine. There's a long-standing question about my group of friends of who hurt you, Greg, and this is probably due to that.
Okay, all right. I had to ask.
We now need merch that says "Who hurt you, Greg." Sell those shirts.
Oh, can I just put in one more thing real quick? The one thing I really don't like about this film, and like I know a lot of you guys are like dumping upon The Rock. I'm not one who like judges. Maybe I just don't know how to judge acting. That's fine. I'll accept that. But the one thing I really did not like was the character of Portman, the creepy guy on the team who like tries to radio out. When they're supposed to be these professional, like, we are the best of the best. You call us when the S has absolutely hit the fan. And as soon as he gets there, he starts going to attractive women. I'm going to have to strip search you ladies because of the quarantine. Get in line and shut up, dude. Like, you have a job to do.
Right? It's almost like horror movie rules, right? Like, if you're mean to the final girl, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of horror movie rules in this movie, and I actually did not mind it. And yes,
I did say I'll be right back.
all the video game references, I'm fine with that. I completely agree with you on Portman. It was like they made him too skeezy. It was like too obvious, right? It's like, way to be didactic on this one here.
Like, I know you have a squad of like 8 guys and you're trying to do whatever you can to make them each stand out individually in their short amount of time they're going to be on screen before they die. But like, you don't need to go that hard with the I hate him, I want him to die. I know he's going to die. It's a horror film. He will die. You don't have to go that hard.
Right?
And I think that's one of the hard parts too, because you're taking a game that had a silent protagonist in every version of it, and you're fleshing it out into like 5 or 6 people. And you have to kind of try to pull a personality out of thin air that isn't given to you from the source material.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And then also this has my one-time crush, Rosamund Pike. So there you go.
There you go.
I think for me, this one should have just stayed the video game just because I loved the video game so much.
See, the thing is, and I think we have to remember that you know, this game at one point was the ultimate home computer game. So there was no question that this was eventually going to be made into a movie. And the thing with Dwayne Johnson in this is that I actually really like him in this. And I think it's more because, you know, at first I'm like, oh my God, like you have Carl Urban, who's supposed to be the main guy, and he's very, you know, inferior as far as screen time to be the main hero. But then there's that twist and you're like, it was it's almost like his whole persona of being like, for lack of a better term, G.I. Joe. And I get the reference here, sees how he's in G.I. Joe Retaliation. But the fact that he twists and becomes the bad guy at the end, you didn't see it coming because you expect him to be the hero because of his stature and where he's at in his film career at that time. And I like the fact that he chose that role because he was offered the role that Carl Urban played. And then he said, no, I liked the character of Sarge better. And I think it was a smart choice for him. There's a lot of good in this film, but there's also a lot of disposableness in it. You know, you mentioned Portman. There's the young guy, the junior guy who basically gets high for like one scene and then he's never high anymore. Like, we need to see that kind of play out a little bit. But I think for me, this film sits right in the middle at number 3. So no number 1s, and one number 5 for this one. But now let's move on. Oh, by the way, Doom, one of 3 of the 5 movies here, I've actually played the video game. There's 2 I have not.
I'll say this. Tom Hanks could have played a better Sarge.
Oh, dear God. I'm just trying to help.
He
would have won an
see
Oscar.
that now.
I'm trying to
I was
picture.
gonna say,
He would have won an Oscar for it, too.
Yeah.
Listen, I could see him winning an Oscar for it.
I went to Mars to go find Rosamund. Oh, we've devolved already.
Jimmy!
I just want to see Tom Hanks go big. Good.
Come on, you got to admit that would be a great movie right there.
I can't turn on Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan, you're an alien.
Only if Gary Sinise is in it as well.
Right, but Gary Sinise
that's
has to be
perfect.
in the Carl Urban role.
Gary Sinise is Pinky because he's in the wheelchair anyways.
Yes. Oh, dear God.
I love it. I love the idea. We got to get this going.
Okay.
New Doom movie coming out.
If any movie producers are listening to this podcast, please do not make this film. We'll be talking about this
No,
one in a
everybody
future
wants it.
episode.
Doom Gump has money written all over.
Oh, dear God. Let's move on to something even worse, though, and that's Blood Rain, starring Kristanna Loken, Ben Kingsley, Michelle Rodriguez, Michael Madsen, Michael Pere, and Meatloaf.
Yes.
Directed by the one and only Uwe Boll. The film had a budget of $25 million. Domestically, it made $2.4 million, and worldwide, $3.6 million. And when it debuted on the January 6th, 2006 weekend, it hit number 19 with only $1.5 million. For the record, the top film that week was Hostel in its debut with $19.5 million. Now, strap in, everyone, because this film cleaned up at the Razzies and the Stinkers. At the Razzies that year, was nominated for Worst Picture. It lost to Basic Instinct 2.
What?
Yep. Kristanna Loken was nominated for Worst Actress. She lost to Sharon Stone for Basic Instinct 2. Ben Kingsley was nominated for Worst Supporting Actor. He lost to M. Night Shyamalan for Lady in the Water. Michelle Rodriguez was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. She lost to Carmen Electra for Date Movie and Scary Movie 4. And Uwe Boll was nominated for Worst Director. He lost to M. Night Shyamalan for Lady in the Water. And the film was nominated for Worst Screenplay. That lost to Basic Instinct 2. Now, at the Stinkers that year, which was coincidentally the last year the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards were ever handed out, this film was the last ever film to win Worst Film of the Year at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. Uwe Boll won for Worst Director that year. Meatloaf was nominated for Worst Supporting Actor. He lost to Chevy Chase for Dougal and Zoom. Michelle
What?
Rodriguez.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I don't even remember that one. Yeah, what the hell was that?
Michelle Rodriguez was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. She lost to Cindy Chung for Lady in the Water. The movie was nominated for Worst Screenplay. That lost to Date Movie. The movie won for Worst Ensemble. Michelle Rodriguez was nominated for Most Annoying Fake Accent for a Female. She lost to Cindy Chung in Lady in the Water. The movie won for Least Special Effects, and it was nominated for Least Scary Horror, which lost to Lady in the Water. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of 18, and over at Rotten Tomatoes, a 17% audience score, and a tomatometer of 4%. And I think what's even scarier than that is that this film spawned 2 sequels. There are more. There is more Blood Rain. But you know what? We're going to go to Lyle for Blood Rain here. Take the charge on this one.
My only question is, did Ben Kingsley save you, or did Yui Bull save Ben Kingsley's kids from drowning or something? What favor was owed here that got him to sign on for this? Because there's absolutely no way he was handed the script for this and agreed and walked in and was like, I'm excited to film this. This movie looks like it was edited on an iMac movie suite in 2008. It just doesn't make any sense how the cuts happen. Every time the fight scenes go on, I had no idea what was happening and who I was watching. It very much, it followed the video game. I played Blood Rain, the video game, so it did pretty well follow the basic. There's 3 MacGuffins. You got to get the MacGuffins to beat the big evil guy who is Ben Kingsley in this. But it was just, how do you take a concept like this and make it as forgettable as this ended up being? That's my question. A lot of good characters from the game just got muddled down to the very base archetypes of what they were. There's the teacher, there's the vampire that's half human, that wants to be human, wants to live a normal life, yada, yada, yada. This one is 4 for me. It was just the most forgettable of the bunch. All of them stay with me in some way and have some redeeming quality-ish, except number 5, but that one's just horrible. But this one was the most forgettable of the bunch to me. So it's definitely going at 4.
All right, let me tell you why this film is my number 5. If you're going to have a film that's got sword fighting in it, you might want to get people who look like they know how to fight with a sword, or at least choreograph those fights a little bit better. I'm going to work under the assumption that this was not Ben Kingsley in that role, but in fact it was Trevor Slattery from Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi acting in this role. You have Ben Kingsley in this role. And at one point I looked at Carrie and I'm like, how much are they paying him to just sit in the chair and look off into the middle third? Because that's kind of how it feels. And I wanted to like Kristanna Loken in this, but I didn't. I wanted to like Michael Madsen in it, but I didn't. I actually didn't mind Michelle Rodriguez in it. Like, I thought she did exactly what she needed to do and was probably the best part of this film. But there's so many like weird little flashbacks that, of course, were a big thing of filmmaking at the time. There was, just so
Billy Zane with a bad hairpiece.
I was just about to say Billy Zane is one of the only like redeeming factors of this movie to me.
Yeah.
He had a bad hairpiece.
See, I can't see a movie with Billy Zane in it and take it seriously anymore, just because some of his post-Titanic roles were just so bad. And this is nothing against Billy Zane. He comes on, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be one of those films, is it? And it is. It's my number 5. Greg, what have you got here for Blood Rain?
So once again, I have played Blood Rain. It was one of the series I did like to enjoy to play in the early 2000s when it was coming out. I thought it was an interesting choice that the main games is supposed to take place in the 1930s, and for some reason this is like in like castle era, like 1600s, 1500s kind of deal. You did mention, of course, that this is directed by Uwe Ball, and I think you can kind of summarize why this film and then one of the other films we'll talk about, In the Name of the King, is so bad. If you guys don't know, Uwe Ball is literally a tax shelter director, where he knows how to make a film poorly and then put it out there and to just use a bunch of different locations so that way people can bump down into tax brackets and not have to pay as much in Hollywood. So it's literally, he is the real life version of Mel Brooks' The Producers. And there's like an entire article about how this whole thing works. If you're interested about it, go check it out. But like, yeah, so it's kind of enjoyable to see a movie that's almost purposely made bad. Talking about the movie itself, there was one thing that drove me insane. And it was at the very end of the film. She has defeated Ben Kingsley. She's sitting on his throne, and the film literally takes 5 minutes to just go through a montage sequence of everything that happened in the film up to then. And then it still has like 5 more minutes of the film after that. And it's like, I just watched this movie. Why are you showing me what happened in the film? I don't need like a reminiscing journey of you. Like, remember that time I was almost like tortured to death in the circus? Yeah. And then I burned it down. And then remember that it's like, what are we doing here? I do appreciate that this is a video game movie and they literally give her like a quest of like, collect these 3 power-ups so you can defeat the boss. That she goes on a thing to like get an eye. I think it's like a heart and a rib. I don't even remember her getting all 3. I remember her getting 2 of them. And I guess the third one just showed up somewhere at the end. And the main problem for me in this movie is she is a Dhampir, which means that she's half vampire, half human. But we, as the audience, are not told what her limitations are. We get a sense of what her abilities are in terms of if I drink blood, I heal. I may be a bit faster and stronger than the average person. But I, as an audience member, don't know. Does sunlight affect her? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So maybe the idea of her being able to go on the sunlight because she gets like the rib of this ancient vampire, maybe that's a good thing. Or maybe that's just a wash for her. Does holy water affect her? I don't know, because I don't know if her half human part takes over that or not. So when she goes into that little room with like the water filling up, I'm like, oh, it's acid, because like it burned her boot a little bit. And then I had to look it up and it said, oh no, it's holy water. I'm like, that was holy water? Nothing in that scene told me that was holy water at all. And then to answer Lyle's question, I think Ben Kingsley looks like he barely moves in the film. He's always just either sitting or standing in one place. And my fan theory is I think he must have had some kind of a surgery and he goes, I'm in a lot of pain right now. So I'm just going to sit or stand in one spot, give my lines, and that's the best performance you're going to get out of me. So he needed some kind of a payday to like cover the copay for his surgery. That's just my personal fan theory. But yeah, this movie it was entertaining in some parts, but just confusing as all can be in others. This is going to be my 4.
Okay. Carrie.
Well, I have to say that I was really excited that I was going after Greg, but I'm really disappointed that I thought that we would have agreed more. Greg, I thought that you would have lifted this one up. So now I'm going to. This is my number 1.
What?
And this is why.
What? What are you saying?
I
don't even know you anymore.
This is why, friends. This is why. It was the most enjoyable of all of these movies. Now, I'm not a gamer. I can't say that. I mean, okay, I'm aware of Doom. Might have played it a few times really badly because it was on a computer somewhere. So it's better than doing homework. That's the best description.
It was on a computer somewhere. I'm sure it got to me.
Yeah, it was better than doing homework. So I thought, oh, what is this game? Oh, okay, you get to shoot people. All right, that's fun. However, this movie and the characters were just so. I mean, I love Michael Madsen. He's of the Tarantino camp, so automatically he gets mad respect. He gets my points. And Michelle Rodriguez, same. She's so great in any movie that she does that I'm actually quite disappointed that it was said that she had the worst accent, and I was like, she had an accent?
Yeah, I'm not buying that nomination at all. But
I think that's actually a cruel nomination that they threw at her. But anyway, Meatloaf. Meatloaf a day. It was like seeing really what you wanted to see more of from his character in Rocky Horror Picture Show. You just wanted to like get to know him more. And in my mind, this is kind of his. this is how I envisioned that he would have been. You know, like kind of surrounded by people and like treated like a king almost.
Rocky Horror or backstage at his concerts?
Aw.
Yeah.
Either way. Again, it was my most enjoyable. I liked the concept of having a half vampire, half human, and I loved the moments in the movie that humanized her. When she refused to attack the mother and the child, she kind of realized and came to with what she was doing and the impact that her actions would have had on the child that saw her attacking people and biting people. And that kind of just the human heart was still strong within the female lead. And I enjoyed it. I did. It was my number one, and I stand behind that.
I can't even.
Ah.
I can't even. Gomez, help us out here.
I have a good attorney if you need one. But you might defriend me now. It's my number 2.
What?
Help me out here. Back me up.
First of all, as a video gamer, I truly loved the game. Okay, I played this, I don't know, so many times and beat it so many times that even the movie actually served its purpose. It actually was pretty damn close to the freaking video game. Yes, you need 3 power-ups to beat the bad guy. Yes, Bing Kingsley sat there with probably something up his ass and sat there and did nothing. Or he could have been smoking some good hashish. Or, maybe the sword that got knighted, when he got knighted, probably cut something on his arm. Who knows? Michelle Rodriguez is a decent actress. She should have never, I don't know what is up with her accent. Her accent's fine, I thought. Only part I didn't like was Billy Zane with a really bad wig in this movie. That was one of my crappy highlights. Meatloaf, like Carrie said, I would like more of him. You know what I mean? He should have been a little bit more in the movie. I thought it was good. Some of the fight scenes were decent. This is my number 2. It's like one of those hidden pleasure ones.
I am perplexed if I'm going to use a
nice
word here.
word.
That's a nice way of saying it.
You're so restrained.
I understand. Hey, you could have said something more mean to me. It's fine.
I will say, though, it was the most acrobatic sex scene since we covered Roadhouse.
This is true.
All right, since we've gone down one UA Bowl road, let's double dip on this one here with In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale. Starring Jason Statham, Ron Perlman, Ray Liotta, Lily Sobieski, John Rhys-Davies, Claire Forlani, Kristana Loken again, and Matthew Lillard. Directed, once again, by UA Bowl. This film had a $60 million budget. Domestically, it made $4.7 million, and worldwide only $13 million. When it debuted on the January 11th, 2008 weekend, it debuted at number 14 with only $3.2 million. For the record, the highest grossing film that week in its 3rd week in theaters was The Bucket List. 3rd week of The Bucket List, and this film couldn't even come close to it. At the Razzies that year, was nominated for Worst Film. It lost to The Love Guru.
Love that film.
Burt Reynolds was nominated for Worst Supporting Actor for this and Deal. He lost to Pierce Brosnan in Mamma Mia. Lily Sobieski was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress for this and 88 Minutes. She lost, and I cannot agree with this one here, to Paris Hilton for Repo the Genetic Opera.
Oh my goodness.
We stand by that film. We will defend that film.
That reactivated parts of my brain.
The film was nominated for Worst Screen Couple for UA Bowl and quote unquote any actor, camera, or screenplay. The movie won for worst director for Uwe Boll for this. He had 3 films that year. This, Postal, and 1968 Tunnel Rats. The film was also nominated for worst screenplay. It lost to The Love Guru. And Uwe Boll was given the worst career achievement award for being Germany's answer to Ed Wood. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of 15. And at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score sits at a 22%. And at Rotten Tomatoes, tomatometer of 4%. So it matches Blood Rain. But if I may, let me tell you why this is my number 1 film.
Oh, God.
Yep. Wow. I went there. This is my number 1 film. And let me explain. I'm going to take any like special effects out of the equation here, of which there really aren't that many, no more so than Blood Rain. But I found the script, the plot, and you actually had a really good cross cast of actors in this. Jason Statham, I mean, this is where you needed someone of that fighting capability in a movie like Blood Rain. Jason Statham is on the screen in an action movie, and he's going to slay it every time. Ron Perlman is a freaking gem, and Jason Statham and Ron Perlman together were great on screen. Ray Liotta I could do without. It was a little over the top and didn't match what Statham and Perlman were putting out there. Lily Sobieski, I actually didn't mind in this. You know, it was a bit of an understated role, but I think she played it very well. Claire Forlani, great to see her in a film again. Like going back to Mallrats and Antitrust, she's a good actress that needs some good roles. John Rhys Davies, I mean, anyone who watches Indiana Jones, just you know he's a gem. Matthew Lillard, Shaggy, Zoinks, what the hell are you doing? Like for reals. The bad guys,
a paycheck.
Right? The bad guys in this film failed the film. The heroes of the film saved the film. And I loved that you had one of those plots where you had different things going on in different parts of the combat. And I felt that the bigger fight scenes were much better done than Blood Rain. Uwe Boll, I think, did a very good job with this film. All things considered, it's my number 1. But now, Carrie.
Oh, I'm up already.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Which is what she said while we were watching the film.
That's exactly it, because it was so predictable that I was able to zone out for maybe the middle part and still wake up and know what the hell's going on, because it is that predictable. But an excellent cast. I really have nothing negative to say about the actors. I think they were high caliber. They played their parts well. Again, not knowing a single thing about the video game franchise. I don't know. I don't know these characters. I don't know how I don't know how the story is supposed to go, but I was able to call the ending by maybe 15 minutes in. So, you know what? It's sitting at a 3 for me. It was good. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
No, that's the other show.
It's not just that.
I will say, like, I remember playing Dungeon Siege on my PSP, and I still have that game, and it's great. And, you know, it's one of those very Diablo-like dungeon crawler type games. And you can see with the level of, like, the pits where they take the prisoners, it felt very much like that game. So video game accuracy wise, I could see where they were sprinkling it in with a much better storyline. Lyle, Dungeon Siege.
5, cinco, sank. It's terrible. Oh my God. I said this is the first movie that actually was written by ChatGPT. It's just way before its time in that regard. But I went into this hoping that I would have something stick with me. And I have a new least favorite movie ever, and it is this Dungeon Siege movie. A good summing up of it is when that scene right at the beginning where they're leaving the farm to go visit Ron Perlman, and the wife of Jason Statham and his kid have the discussion of just how great it is to be related to Jason Statham, And the kid goes, I'm happy we're his family. And the mom looks and she goes, yeah, we're the only family he has, but I'm happy we're his family too. My fiance got up and went to do her physics homework. And that is a good summing up of it. It just, the Korgs look uncomfortable. They're not threatening because they look like the Toxic Avenger who was put in the oven and got baked. They look like they're walking
That's so
turds.
true.
They look terrible. Everything is terrible. Ray Liotta looks like he's a bad stage magician in Vegas. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's such a 5, bottom of the barrel, underneath Blood Rain. I could not stand this movie. That is 2.5 hours I ain't getting back.
Sorry, not sorry. All right, Gomez, name of the king. You okay there, Gomez?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's wake up.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
You got a little drill in your face there.
Yeah.
No, that was from Blood Rain.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
No. I enjoy Blood Rain. This movie put me to sleep. Remember when I told you I had 2 crappy bottom of the barrel next to Jimmy Hoffa laying next to him dead movies? This was one of them. The only thing I liked about the movie was the cast. The movie really put me to sleep. So I mean, it's my number 4. The only thing I liked was the cast. You got Jason Statham, Leelee Sobieski, Ron Perlman, Matthew Lillard. Just retire. Ray Liotta. I thought they brought him back from the dead for this movie. So I don't know if that's too soon for him, But other than that, this was not good at all. I didn't like the video game either anyway.
All right, Greg, taking a look at your numbers here, this is either worst or first, so which one's it going to be?
So for this one, I did play the first Dungeon Siege. I don't know how many other games there are, but so I recognize that it's a series with a nameless protagonist, so I kind of thought it was interesting they tried that here, how he just calls himself Farmer and doesn't really accept any other kind of name. But that format doesn't really work in the movie format. We need someone the reason you have a nameless protagonist in a video game is so that way when I, the player making my choices, I can kind of like psychically project myself onto the character and like, oh, it's not the nameless farmer, it's Greg going through and doing this. But here I'm not making the choices that he's making because he's making the dumbest choices in this film and I don't agree with them. When his wife gets captured and he finally manages to catch up to them and like find the camp that she's being held in, he doesn't go and knock out the guards immediately and then free her. He just goes straight to her cage and tries to open it and then gets captured by the guards himself. He is the dumbest, most narrow-minded idiot I've ever seen in a film, marching past all plot and logical choices. He tries to actively ignore the plot. If you guys remember that film with Will Ferrell and Dustin Hoffman called Stranger Than Fiction, where he can hear the narration of the plot and tries to actively go against it, I feel like that's what Jason Statham's character is doing, where he's like, you want me to go be... No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go this way instead. It is the most insane, infuriating thing. And the only saving grace for me in this film is that the idiot almost gets defeated by a bunch of books at the end. When he's fighting Ray Liotta, it's books that almost take him down. And I'm like, that's amazing. Also, I laughed almost like a mad cackle every time I saw in this movie what I called Cirque du Vine, where the girls just descend from the forest with vines doing like that kind of like ribbon like scarf trick or whatever. All the fight scenes were just boring to watch, a lot of frantic camera movement and what I call just nothing swordplay. And the thing that really infuriated me the absolute most, though, was why is Shaggy being allowed to live so many times? He is constantly showing he's not trustworthy. He's a layabout. He's worthless. He's not worthy of the throne. And they just keep giving him one more chance. When Leelee captures him in the woods and she said to him like, oh, certainly you wouldn't do anything like, he's like, oh, we're in the woods. We're not in a castle. There's no rules out in the woods. I'm like, oh, so he and his men are about to like do something horrible to her right now. But thankfully the Vine people show up. So she captures him and she's like, no, I'm going to give you another chance. We're going to march you back to camp and like let you be tried there. No, he just said he's going to practically kill you in the woods. Kill him now. Bring back his head to the camp. Don't bring him back and then give him another chance to fight his way out of this by then having a one-on-one duel with your, captain of the guards. That's the dumbest choice. I hated this movie. And for some reason, I think I might have gotten a director's cut with this because I don't know about the rest of you, but like I found 2 versions of this film online. One was like an hour and 50 minutes, and mine was 2.5 hours long. And I watched that one.
Yeah,
so
I think it's the director's cut that is on Prime Video.
Okay, so I watched that. I watched even more than most other people have. And I can't take back the loss in reputation that certain actors have in my eyes, especially Burt Reynolds. I used to love watching Smokey and the Bandit. I can't watch that film anymore. He has now been tainted in my eyes, and I hate it. Not one. This is my 5. 5, bottom of the barrel, hated this film.
Wow. Okay.
The fact that now you can't watch Smokey and the Bandit anymore, man. That's still a classic. I can watch that every day.
I love that film, but I'll just keep looking at him and like, oh, that's that sad old man, but just a little bit younger.
You know what's funny? I would have put that up against Smokey and Bandit 3.
Wait,
they made a 3? I've only seen 1, 2.
Oh yeah, they made a 3rd.
But since you mentioned that, Greg, I need to point out that much like Blood Rain, there are 2 other In the Name of the King films out there.
Oh, I know.
So maybe we'll bring it back.
They made more of this?
They did. And that's the thing. UA Bowl would get these, these rights to these video games and milk them and do as many movies as he could. But now we're going to talk about a movie where when it came to people pitching to get the rights to the film, this company looked at UA Bowl because he had tried to, and they said, we're not selling it to you, especially not you. And that's because we're talking Warcraft. The film stars Travis Fimmel, Paula Patton, Ben Foster, Dominic Cooper, the ever-enjoyable Clancy Brown, and many others. Directed by Duncan Jones, who prior to this had done Moon and Source Code, and those are great films. This film had a budget of $160 million. Domestically, it only made 47. However, the rest of the world went to see this movie a lot because worldwide it made $439 million. And until the release of the Super Mario Brothers movie this year, this was the highest grossing video game movie worldwide of all time. Now that belongs to Super Mario Brothers. When it debuted on the June 10th, 2016 weekend, it only debuted at number 2 domestically with $24 million. The highest grossing film that week was The Conjuring. Now You See Me Part 2 came in 3rd. It was nominated for no Razzies. However, at the Annie Awards and the Visual Effects Society Awards, it was nominated for a few animation awards. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of 32, and over at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is 76%, and the tomatometer is 29%. Now, knowing that, I'm going to look at you, Carrie, and ask why this film is your number 5.
I'm going to call on a friend. Anyone? Anyone? Any takers?
Bueller.
I would like to go last.
No.
Well, this is definitely my last. Let's see. I have no notes on this one because I had not a freaking clue what was going on the entire time. Now, again, my disclaimer to this, I'm not a gamer, so I've never played any of these games, really. I do pose the question, though, because, Jay, how many times did we watch these movies together? And I said, have you played this game? And the conversation would end there because we're watching the movie. And, of course, attention and focus had to be on the movie.
I'm such a taskmaster.
For the next 2 hours plus. But does it change your perspective on the movies having played the game?
I think it does to a point. I mean, here's of the 5 movies that we've covered here. Yeah, I played Doom. Yes, I pumped quarters into Double Dragon because the only move I knew how to do really well was the back elbow, and it worked every time. And I played Dungeon Siege a lot. Never played Blood Rain. Never played Warcraft, even though Warcraft is arguably, especially in that year, the biggest game in the world. But I could see what, the artwork and style that they were going with. And it really did feel like the world that they were trying to do in Warcraft. But yeah, I can see how being a fan of the game can maybe taint your look on it, and having zero clue about the game could also leave you feeling lost going into a film.
Yeah, because that's what happened. I will say, though, the end scene with the baby made me laugh. That was enjoyable. So I had to wait. How long is this movie? Runtime? Over 2+ hours? Anyone?
Like 2.5 hours, something like
About
that.
2.5 hours.
2.5? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So it wasn't just me. It felt like it was 2.5 hours.
Yeah, you were ready to rage quit at this point.
Well, yeah.
And this was the last film that we watched together in preparation for this. I'll tell you why it's my number 2, though. Visually, this film looks amazing. There's a lot of CGI in this. Like it does. It feels like a whole bunch of cutscenes put together. Dominic Cooper, who of course plays Howard Stark in the MCU, I thought did a fantastic job of this. Even the mocap, and like you had a lot of non-real characters. And yeah, it did feel a little disjointed at first, but when things started to go and you started to kind of pick up what was going on, I felt it did. It picked up steam. I got the idea. The ending, it felt a little weak to me. It felt like almost anticlimactic. Like, yeah, we're setting it up for Warcraft 2, which still has not happened. But I think overall it's still a good film. Now, for the rest of you guys, and Greg, we're going to start with you. Why is this your number 1?
Right, so 3-way high five between Gomez, Lyle, and I for the number 1 on the Warcraft. So here's let me address that immediately for you, Jason, with the kind of anticlimactic ending. You have to remember that this is meant to be the inciting incident in a long-standing war, so it's not going to be wrapped up with a neat bow at the end. It is meant to be open-ended because even in Warcraft itself, when you get to the end game, quote unquote, it's still open-ended and it's still going to keep going, and they're still going to keep releasing expansions with like almost world-shattering events that's going to change everything, and then like more lore is going to be added out. But I think that I can understand, especially Carrie's perspective of coming into this franchise that has like at this point now like 30 years of lore and backstory, and they don't really front load you with a whole lot of information in the front of the movie. They don't like give you too much exposition because it'd be just absolutely too much to swallow for any audience member who's not coming in going like, oh yeah, I know Lothar, I know, Grom Hellscream. Yeah, those names are familiar to me. But it does pay a lot of service to the world by doing world building with background inclusions, like the little Murloc, the fish person who's under the bridge as someone rides the horse over it, or like a harvest golem in the back, the griffin landing in Stormwind. If you play the game, you can be like, that's exactly where you land the griffins when you fly in from the city. That is 100% accurate. They stayed faithful all the way through. So each scene, a fan could tell you like exactly where in the map that scene can be found, even like down to the tiniest little like pinpoint. It's almost like that GeoGuessr game that you can play online with the real world map. But like even a casual fan, you'd be like, yeah, I know exactly where we're at there. But the one thing that I did think especially is you don't really need to understand the ins and outs of this world or its expanded universe to appreciate the story that's being told. It's clearly just one side versus another, and they both have good people and bad people on either side of it, And it's kind of like with Lord of the Rings. I don't need to have read the Silmarillion or even The Hobbit to understand the Lord of the Rings. At the very beginning, it's like there was a war, there was a bunch of magic rings, one dude made a more better magic ring, and everyone said, we can let that dude have the more better magic ring, let's go take him out. Got it. Cool. I totally get that, So it can be refreshing to just let things sometimes exist and everyone in the movie just to accept that that's a thing, I especially do like how when the orcs come through, they see a griffin, which they don't have in their world, and they don't really flinch at it too much. Like, okay, so yeah, in this world, a giant bird, lion, horse thing, that's just a thing. Cool. Totally get it. Or when people and the humans in our world see this evil green fell magic happening, they may have not seen that before, but like, oh, but we know magic. So like, that's just another magic I don't know. Cool. Checks out fine. So yeah, everything looks great in this film. It does maybe drag a little bit in the plot a couple times, but I mean, I think it'd be almost untenable to have like an adrenaline pumped, action filled fight scenes for the entire 2 hours. So you do need that little kind of cool down in the middle at some points to let the story kind of breathe a little bit. But I definitely enjoyed it, and that's why this is my number one. When I was going through my rankings for source material, acting, plot, enjoyment, I was just like fives across the board. I'm like, I love this film. I do really hope they have a sequel. If they don't, then I think this is still just a great film overall.
All right, Gomez, it's your number one. Why is that?
First of all, I love the game. I really do. This is the one movie that I would say, besides the crappy Doom, that actually followed the video game to a T almost. There's like Greg said, it gives you every little points from the movie, from the video game into the movie. The CGI was just unbelievable in this movie. I just gotta say that because it was better than Avatar. I enjoyed it. I don't like Avatar, and this was better than Avatar. If you played the game, you understand the movie, and you understand the characters and everything. And I thought it was done well. I should have done better in that. But when you're competing against Super Mario, the John Leguizamo version compared to the new version, I can see why the newer version beat out this movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that you take a look at the worldwide gross, like 439 million worldwide. That's a decent take, Yeah. I mean, Super Mario, I think, is at like 1.3 billion. So like it's gonna take one hell of a video game movie and probably a while before we ever see that record being broken. But Lyle, take us home here. Why is this your number one?
Well, it's my number one, Jason, because like Carrie, you kind of hit the nail on the head. This is the game of all of them that are examined here that lent itself to screw up the movie the most. Every other game that was turned into movies on this list were pretty straightforward affairs, either RPGs, single player experiences. This is an MMO. Like, this is, like you said, 30 years of lore and 30 years of gaming. I never played it much myself. My best friend Janelle was addicted to it back when the first few expansions were coming out. Our group chat is still called The Horde. And it's just, there's so many ways this could have gone wrong because it has a rabid fan base. And as soon as the movie was announced, there's a lot of bickering online about what's going to be included and what's not. So for somebody who like had a background kind of picture of what Warcraft was, I went into it excited to see. I didn't know it was a prequel. I had no idea that this was supposed to set up the game going forward. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the CGI, just like it was touched on before. I also am not a big fan of Avatar. This is probably the most impressive CGI I've seen. It was much more personal than I expected it to be. The orc who's not a full orc, who they call Cursed, I really liked her character arc. I really like the opposing factions and how neither of them is really the bad guy. They're both just trying to defend their homes. There's just one bad person on one army, the orc army. It was a very big surprise to me. I went into this thinking I was going to like this one the least. I ended up liking it the best. It's my number one for all of those reasons.
Well, there you go, everyone. 5 movies, 5 different sets of rankings. And before we figure out which one kind of stood up above all the rest, we're going to go through each of them. So, Greg, worst to first, how did you rank these?
Worst to first, I went In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, Blood Rain, Double Dragon, Doom, and Warcraft.
Gomez, worst to first.
The cruddy job of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We're going to go with Doom as the worst. In the Name of the King, Double Dragon, Blood Rain, and Warcraft.
Carrie, what you got?
Warcraft, Doom, In the Name of the King, Double Dragon, followed by my best, Blood Rain.
I'm still shaking my head at that. Lyle, worst to
Me and
first.
Carrie agreed.
In the Name of the Garbage King, Blood Rain, then Double Dragon, then Doom, and then Warcraft at first.
And I went with Blood Rain, then Double Dragon, then Doom, then Warcraft, then In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale. Now, Greg has been sitting here crunching the numbers while we have been talking. So, Greg, how did we average?
So very interesting. It's a very tight spread this time, actually. at the bottom of the list with an average of, now remember, it's like golf scores. Lower numbers are better. The average of 3.6 is The Name of the King. Tied for third place is Blood Rain and Doom, both with a 3.2. Then very close is next at second place with Double Dragon at a solid 3, and Warcraft a bit above with a solid 2.
Nice. So there you have it. 5 of the worst video game movie adaptations. And trust me when I say there are enough video game movie adaptations that would qualify that we could come back and do a volume 2 of this somewhere down the road if you guys don't hate me already. Just gauging the response here.
Only if you give it a proper title like Video Game Movies Expansion Pack or DLC or something, you know.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, done and done.
And I'll be playing Super Mario 3. Well, you guys are all talking about the
now you got to come back.
Dream scrollers and stuff. I'm not a gamer.
You know what I'm doing right now?
I was supposed to say,
as we're
Get out
doing
of my
this,
league.
don't worry. We'll make sure Blood Rain 2 is on there so you can kind of defend your Blood Rain pick.
I can. I'm curious to see the other. There's 2 more, right?
And you know what I'm doing on this wonderful conversation? Playing NHL 23 as we're speaking.
And as you well should. But before we go, I want to give you guys the microphone and let us know where we can find you out there. So Gomez, let us know about the Sleevy G Show.
So everyone knows me as the Sleevy G. It's been a great ride so far. It's been 6 months of good recordings. Jason has been part of it. Brian Colburn. I had some New Jersey local celebrities like Christina Bear, Cara DeFalco, Don Smith, Marissa Brainy, and also I've done some great episodes like Autism with Angela Bryden Egan. We did Cerebral Palsy just this past week with one of my old friends from high school, and also a bike ride with my friend who is a type 1 diabetic. So my show is just a cause of everything, you know what I mean? Not just video games, movies, but we're going to do also causes, you know what I mean? So check out the Sleevy G Show on YouTube, Spotify, Good Pods. Subscribe, love it, and enjoy it, guys. You know, that's the best way I could say it.
Now, Greg, I know you guys are still on hiatus a little bit, but still tell us about movie date night.
Yeah, we're kind of starting to get ready to come back out of hiatus. You know, baby's finally able to be a bit more self-sufficient at this point. But yeah, we were Lauren and Greg at movie date night on all your podcatchers, where Lauren and I share movies back and forth with each other the other hasn't seen. We try to do a bit more obscure, older things at times. Like if you've never seen The Women, that's a solid one where it's an entire film where not a single man appears. But it's very engaging plot, so I highly recommend that one. We also were a part of Moral Combat with our friends Matt and David and Johnny, where we would argue and rank tournament style different topics, such as what's the best fast food, what's the best Pixar villain, things like that. And that was at Moral Combat.
And Lyle, where can our listeners hear you and find you out there on the interwebs?
Out there on the interwebs, you can look at 640toronto.com, listen to the morning show or the Alex Pearson show. I am the producer on those, and I'm often lending my voice to whatever issues are going on in this great city.
Excellent. And Carrie, lovely as always. Now, to you, our listeners, if there is a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or you think is so bad that you we can't find anything good to say about it, hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast. And if there's another grading on a curve episode theme that you would like us to explore, let us know there as well. Or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com, and there you can catch up on all the It's Not That Bad episodes, previous grading on a curve episodes, as well as There Can Only Be One, our music podcast, and you can also find that over at Only One Cast. Now, until next time, Greg, Gomez, Lyle, Carrie, thank you guys so much. Listeners, you guys are awesome. This is Grading on a Curve. Until next time, everyone, take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. we're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.